This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview. Go on to Zim. Okay, right, that's recording. Well, joining us today is Andrew Bell, the CEO of Red Rock Resources, following a visit out to Zimbabwe. And I think, Andrew, you were planning the DRC as well, weren't you? But what's the latest on the DRC and the situation there, first of all?
No, I have nothing that would vary from what I said before.
Okay.
We believe that we are really close to solving the whole thing. And in fact, because I have sufficient confidence that it doesn't need me there at this stage, that's why I came back to England. I can always fly back to the DRC at a moment's notice, but it seems sensible after more than a week away to come back and deal with one or two things here.
Okay.
But, yes, it's going to be okay.
Okay. Well, of course, I think the main purpose of your trip was Zimbabwe. We talked about talking to the teams on the ground, getting operations in place and ready to go. But I wonder, before we go into a bit more detail on Zimbabwe, what's there and what your plans are, I want to just take it back a little bit and just understand a bit more about the Zimbabwean project. I don't feel it's had very much focus when we've talked before. So could you take us back a little bit, maybe just explain a little bit about the project, how long it's been in the portfolio, and just, if you like, give the elevator pitch of that project?
Yes, we have a number of areas, a number of licenses, both new applications and purchases of existing licenses. And we were always not quite sure which ones we were going to exploit first. And of course, we had to get the EIAs and we had to get the permits. And we've done that for one license. And as we were doing all of this, we've made a number of announcements over a period. But as we were doing all of this, the rules changed. The government started to tighten up on export licenses, forcing people to beneficiate or it was to have a minimum grade for export, but also to beneficiate. But it's a little bit hazy, so people didn't know quite where they were. I think, therefore, we've been telling people that we're about to get into production there, and we haven't been able to be specific and say we are in production.
Okay, and how long has Red Rock had the licensed interests there in Zimbabwe?
Some since 2021.
Right, okay, so it is a relatively new project into the mix of, yes, okay.
Yes.
How did the licenses come about, Andrew? What's any history on the project, or how you came to
as
acquire
I say,
them?
some of them were new applications for areas that we'd identified as having lithium, others based on some sampling, and others were existing known licenses that had a history of production, or that were, where it was very obvious that there'd been enough exploration that you could say that something was there. And so we just concentrated on doing a bit of a land grab where we were able to. We didn't do as well as we might have done, but we did pretty well, and we're quite happy that we've got what we can turn into a multi-year production a production profile.
Okay.
For lithium.
So it was a bit of a land grab, as you say. Of course, that does make sense given the interest in lithium at the moment. Were these? So who else is? Did these have past operators? Were they sort of left dormant? Or would you buy them off someone? And who else is in the area?
Well, there are some. We've got some interest in the Paquita area. We've got some in the Arcturus area, and so everyone knows about Paquita. They know about Artemis, and so we are in some known areas. But even the other areas where we've got things, they are known areas containing pegmatites, and of course, not every pegmatite has lithium. And not all lithium is the same. There are three different kinds, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
The spodumene, which is perhaps the most prized, petalite, and lepidolite.
Mm-hmm.
And even lepidolites you can break down into a number of different types.
Indeed, yes. There are definitely three different types of lithium there. I'm just trying to help understand people listening to understand what the project is. If you think of other lithium projects, a couple that come to mind. Obviously, Premier African Minerals out in Zimbabwe. There, we kind of understand they've got a resource there. They've got the pegmatites outcropping at surface. They're following them. They channel sample them. Marula Mining also have that like old dumps effectively when lithium was not in vogue, and it was almost artisanal mining, and they've gone in the reprocessing those dumps, but also getting into the hard rock exploration. So I'm trying to just picture exactly the scene, if you like, what it looks like, and if there's a resource on it, or if you plan to get drilling and get resource on it.
There is a lot of smoke puffing around the battlefield, and so I think you can ignore a very large part of what you hear in people's announcements. Of course, you do get these deposits on the whole expressing themselves at the surface. Yes, but I think the thing that everyone should be looking at and what you can judge people by is exports. When a company says it's exporting, that's what to look for. And when it's exporting, see how much it exports. And so I just say, watch this space.
You're going to say watch this space on export. Okay, so that's what we should judge you on. And
after all, what else?
Oh, indeed. Well, export brings in money. I'm just thinking of normal.
And also, exports have become particularly difficult because the government is restricting export licenses.
Okay.
So
of course.
We want to be judged by our exports.
Okay. Well, on that then, so if there's no sort of, I guess it's sounding like this can get into production fairly quickly if there's no sort of resource drilling going on or the usual kind of studies that go on that can take a while. I saw, of course, a picture that went out from Red Rock just recently that was lepidolite. It was lepidolite rocks that were there. So is this what we're talking about?
That was a nice piece of high-grade lepidolite. But what we might be exporting could be that, or it could be spodumene. You'll just have to wait and see.
Okay, you're being quite mysterious, Andrew, but we will just have to wait and see.
That's because, things that are really material should be at an RNS.
Of course.
Shouldn't be in an interview.
Of course, absolutely, of course.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't think people will have to wait too long because obviously we were out there, we were with a team, and as you quite correctly said, this material tends to express itself at surface. So you can start off by just digging and sorting.
Indeed. Okay. So is that what the operation might look like? Digging, sorting, and then exporting
as
a DSO?
The only thing that really matters is what you export. Because that's what you're selling. There's essentially no domestic market for this product.
Okay. So almost looking at a DSO potentially. Is that fair to say?
Well, it depends. Some mixture of sorting and beneficiation is probably going to be required for most deposits. The question would be does one need to be putting up a multi-tens of millions of dollars plant straight away? Is that the way to go? Given that all ores are very different and that of the metallurgy and the way to treat them is very different. If someone were putting up a plant that costs them tens of millions of dollars, I'd look very carefully to see the many, many, many months and many metallurgical studies that have been carried out to establish what the characteristics of that deposit were.
Okay, understood. And just a final thought then, of course, we can wait and see some material RNSs from the company regarding this project. But in terms of your trip out there, did you achieve everything you wanted to achieve in order to move this project forward at pace?
Oh, absolutely. We achieved what we set out to achieve on this trip. I'm not saying what the objectives of this trip were, but I think if I summarized, I would say it's to accelerate everything.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time and that update today, Andrew Bell, the CEO there of Red Rock Resources.
Thank you very much.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stopboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.